That is how quickly a concussion can happen, and that's how quickly your life can be changed from a concussion. In 2006, Zach Lysted was a normal kid who loved sports and loved football especially. His dad said that he actually loved being hit and hitting people, which is a common theme for football players. But in that game in 2006, he suffered a concussion late in the second quarter when he went down and hit his head on the ground and actually passed out momentarily. And they said they saw him with both hands on the sides of his helmet, which would now be a common sign that that kid is not going to go back in the game. However, at the time, he went in at halftime. His dad looked at him, said he was okay to play, sent him back in the game, and early that third quarter, Zach was hit again, and the lights were out, and he had to be airlifted to Harborview Medical Center in Seattle, Washington, where he went into immediate surgery to save his life. He had to remove parts of his skull on both the right and the left side to reduce swelling and take the pressure off his brain, otherwise he would have died. Through this, he experienced many strokes, had 2 months in the hospital, 9 months before he spoke his first word, 13 months before he moved an arm or a leg again, and 20 months on a feeding tube. This is just how quickly your life can be taken from a concussion, and to think all of this could have been avoided if he simply did not go back in the game. If he didn't go back in the game, he would have recovered in a week or 2 weeks, and he would have been back playing like a normal kid. In 2009, the state of Washington passed the Lysted Law protecting kids from this same thing happening. This law makes it so that kids have to be cleared medically before they can re-enter a game, which is a very smart law, and it's now it's a federal law. During this speech, I want to have everyone know how to take the proper precautions with concussions and to know that they need to get cleared before any physical activity, not just sports, but anything from playing outside. I mean, concussions can happen in the blink of an eye. If you don't take my advice, I want to explain to you a possibility that could occur. One day, let's say you have kids, you wake up and you take your son or daughter to their basketball game. During that game, their head hits the ground and they get a concussion. It seems to be a mild concussion, but they still have to sit out due to the Lysted Law, and you become angered because your son and daughter does not have any of the symptoms of a concussion, and you want them to get back in the game. You think that's the stupidest rule ever. Well, they don't play due to the law, and you go home later, 2 days later, your son or daughter just has a headache, so you guys are out in the yard playing. All of a sudden they hit their head again and the lights are out, just like Zach. It can happen that quickly, and I don't want that to happen to anybody else, and I don't think you guys would want that to happen to your children. So that's why we need to take the precautions and learn about how serious concussions are. A concussion is a traumatic brain injury caused by a blow to the head where your brain rattles around and can hit your skull. It's a very serious injury, and it's something that until recently people didn't take serious at all. Symptoms can include passing out, headache, nausea, and loss of memory. So a common test that they do is having the player recall what happened that day or what month it is, what quarter they're in, that sort of thing. Some people don't even feel the symptoms when they're occurring, and that's the scariest thing because you can have a concussion and not know it. One of the major concussion-related symptoms or concussion things you're trying to prevent is a second impact syndrome, which is what happened to Zach Lysted. So that's when you have your first concussion, and within the first hour or day or two, you get that second concussion, and that's when they can become fatal real quickly because your brain will just swell up immediately. The CDC estimates that close to 2 million concussions can occur every year, and that between 5 and 10% of athletes will suffer a concussion. Those are crazy statistics, especially considering the fact of how many people play sports in their life, and 1 in every 10 of them has a concussion and is prone to these symptoms. It's a scary statistic. One of the major things that people with concussions have to watch out for is CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which sounds like a rare disease, but it's actually very common. And that can lead to dementia, anger, depression, and suicide. These are very common things in the NFL specifically, which has been brought to light. And actually in 2014, 76 out of 79 brains were studied from former NFL players, and the 76 out of the 79 had CTE in them, which is why many NFL players have been committing suicide. I mean, recent studies and stories have come out of these players committing suicide, and now we know why. It's because of major blows to the head. It just changes them. One of the rebuttals to this is that people say it's wimpy. If the kid's sitting out, they should fight through the pain. I mean, if a kid has a sprained ankle, they go back in the game, but concussion is a totally different game. And to that, I want them to meet someone like Zach Lysted and listen to their story so that they're not giving these kids a hard time about not going back in the game, and they treat it like a serious issue that it is. So my call to action would be to log on to cdc.gov/concussions and get the information. I have handouts of medical release forms that you would have to go through to get back in the game, and to those, I'm going to give those to my audience members to give to people they know that might need them. And also you can get this information from your local high school coaches, middle school coaches. Anyone dealing with sports with kids knows this information. And so I want you to go out and get this information. Google concussion. I mean, there are a million websites will pop up. Just get the information, pass on the information, because we don't want anybody else to be another statistic.